back, everybody. It's another episode of Business Breakthroughs. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your hosts, Michael Millay and Andrew Honigsfeld. Gentlemen, good morning. Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm on fire right now. I'm on fire.
Beautiful Friday morning. So
it's a beautiful Friday morning. Yes. We were just, before we hit record, we were talking. I'm pretty excited about this episode for those of you listening, because I think one of the things that makes these guys so special is their ability to get behind the tactical. So much coaching around hiring and team building is tactical stuff. The kind of stuff you read in a book, right? Like, oh, it just says ABC and it all should be good. But what these guys do is they go to work in the mindset of it all. And that is the piece that separates these guys from everybody else. So guys, we're talking about the fundamental mindset that goes into building a good team. And what I'm curious about is where is the breakdown? Because not everybody's building good teams.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like you said, like one of the breakdowns is people are looking for the next tool, the next sort of like, what can they use to be a better leader? Right. But what happens when you're looking for a tool is you're forgetting that being a good leader isn't about what tool you have or what tool you use. And yes, some make the process easier. Some make the process harder. Absolutely. Yep. But it's really about who you are and like who you see yourself as, who your employees see you as, who you see them as, and how you then choose to interact with them. That makes the difference. And so reading, you know, any one of those books and taking it as a gospel, right, and not thinking about who are you on a fundamental level and who are they on a fundamental level when you interact with them, you're always going to run into problems.
Right. Yeah.
And
I saw that. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, just like another way of looking at it is like what most tools are actually structures that people who are great leaders have put into place for themselves to fulfill on their commitment and their mindset. Yep. And it's a way to lock themselves in to ensuring that they fulfill on their goal in their mindset. And so many people take the tool as the tool, not as a structure for fulfilling on the mindset.
Listen, I love this because when you look at, you know, one of the things I love about what Tim Ferriss does is how he deconstructs learning. And when I feel like if you deconstruct what's actually happening, when somebody writes a book, what happens is they went through life, figured some stuff out, like from the hip, like they didn't have a book they read that figured it out. They just figured out their own way to do it. And they're like, oh, hey, I need to codify what I just did so I can teach others and hopefully help them be better. Yep. And then we take the book and we go, like you said, Andrew, gospel, we're like, oh, well, this says this is what I'm supposed to do. And then we forget about the grind and the hustle and the figuring it out part of this whole thing that makes it work for you.
Right.
It's like if you read Into Thin Air, let's say, where they're climbing Mount Everest.
Right.
And you then went to go climb, let's say, Mount Whitney and followed the exact steps. When they said they took a step forward, you took a step forward. Yeah. You're going to wind up falling off a cliff.
It's a great metaphor.
You're not going to get where you're trying to go. But so many people think that they're all climbing the same hill.
No, I love that. Your mountain. So what you're saying is that the mountain you're climbing in your life is your mountain. It's Chris Angel Mountain. Yep. And Chris Angel's mountain is not Michael Millay's mountain or Andrew Honigsfeld's mountain. So you can't use the same steps to climb a different mountain.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a beautiful metaphor. I love that. Yeah.
And it also so many people want a roadmap.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
They want to like, I want to read Chris Angel's book and know how to climb Andrew Honigsfeld Mountain. Like, everybody wants that. But if you actually deconstruct it, right? Like, like Tim Ferriss, like with his deconstructing of learning, if you actually deconstruct the Chris Angel book on how to climb Chris Angel Mountain, you could actually learn a lot that can be applied to the roadmap for, you know, your own mountain or Andrew Honigsfeld Mountain. As long as you don't think, I was just going to say, as long as you don't think that when Chris took a right or a left, that means I must take a right or a left. It means that you figured out a path and how to read it.
Yeah.
And you need to really look at it from that angle.
It's more like if I was going to climb Michael Mountain And I'm like, oh, in Chris Angel's book, he happened to need a rope and a ladder and all of this stuff. You know what? I better pack that stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to going, oh, I need to swing my arm back and move it forward and release nothing because I didn't pack the rope over to the other side of whatever.
Right.
And it's like, that's how most people use tools is they go through the motions of it as opposed to actually being able to take this specific specialized instance and get that it comes from this generalized framework and then take that generalized framework and then apply it to their own specific situation. And so they're trying to essentially fit round pegs into square holes or square pegs into round holes. You know, that whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to getting the general context of you put the right shape in the right hole.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a triangle, so I really didn't work in either.
They just left you out completely. In
that, I get it now.
There was a book years ago written by Jim Collins called Good to Great.
Yep.
And he, in the book, maybe it was Built to Last actually, where he talked about this, but either way, he talks about how Good to Great or Built to Last companies would preserve the core of who they were and stimulate progress. So they had a yin yang symbol, right? And there was this balance of knowing who you are as a company, or in this case, if you're a solopreneur, knowing who you are as an individual.
Yep.
And also as new technologies, new tools, new things come, you can still stimulate progress with the appropriate tools. But the comparison companies in Jim Collins' book, the difference is the comparison companies would chase new technologies, new tools. And what I see a lot in real estate and in business is people chasing tools.
Yeah.
And they don't have enough sense of who they are, so they can't preserve who they are because they're not having that conversation.
Yeah, I'm reading the book Essentialism right now.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things they talk about is basically exactly that. Is like when a company's got like, you know, our priority is we're going to make sure we take care of the stakeholder and the customer and all these people. They're our number one priority, all of them together. Problem is, what do you do when there's a situation that conflicts with all of them? And like the word priority is a singular.
Yeah.
And like people just get confused and they're not clear on their priority. Their one sole priority that gets them through life. You know, if you will, that one thing, you know, from Gary Keller's book as well, is like, if you're not clear on your priority, then yeah, it's really easy to get lost in like, oh, what is that over there? I think I should go check it out, because you have nothing to ground it on.
Right.
And as a leader in a company and a business owner, like you need to know what is your priority in the world. Why did you start this business? What was first and foremost in your life or in your mind when you created this? And have that codified somewhere.
Do you want to say anything, Michael? Because I know I'm like itching over here. But go ahead.
There's no way I can stop you. I
feel like what happens is people will get. Can we use real estate as the context? So
100%.
It's all the general human experience.
Yeah. So we'll talk about real estate, but you can hear it from any place you're listening from. So
exactly.
So the thing is, like, the barrier to entry in real estate is pretty small. Like you can get you can get your real estate license without much soul work. Right. You can just kind of get it. And if you hustle, you can make some sales without like knowing how you did it. Like you wouldn't know how to reproduce that. You're like, I don't know. I just hustled and I got it done. And so you can find people who are actually starting to build a team because they've produced some sales, who actually have no sense of who they are.
Right.
And so now this is why what you guys do is so valuable, because you're coming into somebody who's created success by using tools and hustle and grind, and you're starting to ask questions they've never considered in order to backfill that sense of self.
Right. Yeah. And
it's good.
Yeah.
You get a truth bomb, and you get a truth bomb, and you get a truth bomb.
Look under your chairs. Get your very own truth bomb.
So that was your joke, Michael. I'm sorry, but I love that. So good.
No. That's why I had to like throw that little piece in, because that was the part I was most proud of.
Okay, all right, good. Yeah, I was proud of your joke anyway.
Reaches under and it's like, oh, truth bomb.
It's our Oprah Winfrey truth bombs right here.
It's true. Thank you for filling that in, Andrew.
It's what I was gonna say is like you said, going to the like, you start a team based on like, because you've done hard work,
right?
But even when you've done hard work, there's actually something that's had you succeed, because hustle will only allow you to grow so much. Yeah. If you're a terrible person, you can hustle all you want and nobody's going to work with you because they can't stand you. Mm-hmm. So like there's a certain amount of who you are that's built into a team.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's good.
But when it's default, you don't realize that you've done that. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so our conscious to unconscious.
Yeah, our job when we're working with you and growing that team, is to have you actually get like who you are and be able to see it in the company that you're building, whether it's a company or a real estate team. But, you know, how do we bring that out? You know, if your big thing is impeccable customer service, which most people are going to say that's their big thing, but let's just say that's like your real big thing, right? If impeccable customer service is your thing, then you want to make sure that when you're hiring people, they understand that impeccable customer service is what we're here for. So when you get that client that's going to drive you nuts through the transaction process, impeccable customer service has to show out over, God, I hate these people. Do we really have to work with them?
Right.
And actually, Andrew said something brilliant just now, is people will say impeccable customer service, but let's just pretend like impeccable customer service is actually what it is for you. Yeah, because so many people have this conceptual idea of who they think they should be based on all the models and tools, and what makes a successful realtor is X, as opposed to what works for them. And some people, it is actually an honest thing and a real full self-expression for them to say customer service. For other people, it's about having people get the exact thing that they want, or the exact deal, or the best deal. I know some realtors who will take care of their clients inside of ensuring that no matter what, they get the best possible deal at every single step of the way.
Right.
And it's not about necessarily the customer liking them or thinking that they were always taken care of, as long as they got the best deal. And those people attract a very different type of person than the person who's always looking to have impeccable customer service. Right. And to loop back on like what you were saying about the yin yang, is this is actually where it comes down to commitment versus attachment, where it's like, what you have to know is the commitment, but so many times people confuse the two.
Right.
And the yin or yang, whichever the part that's supposed to change, is the attachment part that you need to release while still holding on to the commitment. But if you don't have the clarity of sight to see the commitment as separate from the attachment, which hand do you release?
Can I just make that concrete? So when you're talking about attachment, you mean like being attached to a tool, for example, like, oh, I have to run Facebook ads, versus being committed to customer service.
Anytime you say should.
Well, I would say,
I should do this. That's an attachment.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say, you could be attached to Facebook ads, but really what you're committed to is acquiring more customers in a way that actually has you experience freedom and ease.
Right.
That would be the commitment, right? It's so much more like, if all that mattered, if I was committed to doing that, one of the actions might be Facebook ads. But if I got stuck on Facebook ads are the way to do that, that's when it's an attachment.
And that's what most people confuse inside of the mindset versus everything else. And it's all the same actual conversation, because it's like the tool is the Facebook ads, and how to use the tool is the trainings that you go to on how to use Facebook ads and how to do the social media post and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and this. And then people think that that's what it is, instead of actually taking a step back and be like, what I'm really committed to is not having to work so hard to get leads.
Yeah.
And when they actually are able to take that step back and look at that, what it actually allows for is a freedom and creativity that allows them to fulfill on what they're committed to, while having the flexibility to figure out which structure, not tool, which structure works for them.
Right. It actually applies to the hiring process as well. When you're hiring, an assistant, right? it's not, hey, the example I always use is actually is more of a janitor, but like the example I always think of is somebody's like, hey, I want them to sweep the floors. Mm-hmm. That's the attachment. You're attached to them sweeping the floors, but what you're committed to is that they keep the space clean.
Got it.
Yep. And like knowing that it applies everywhere in so many different areas is like, if you want somebody to be responsible for keeping the space clean, saying, I want them to sweep the floors will not get you what you want.
Right.
It will get you somebody who can sweep the floors only. Right. So it's very different, and it's important to like see how like that commitment and that attachment, it's everywhere.
Right. And literally this conversation runs every area of your life and every breakdown you have ever had.
Mm-hmm. Explain.
I guarantee that there's at least one thread of this in every single upset that you or anyone around you has ever had.
Right.
Because
and going to the example of the janitor, right? Like just what he means. And like the example is if you wanted the space clean, but you told them sweep the floors, you're going to be upset because you're not getting what you wanted. And that person's going to be thinking they're delivering their job perfectly.
Mm-hmm. And then when you yell at them for not doing their job correctly, they're going to go, what the hell, man?
Yeah, right. They're going to be upset because they're going to not know. They're going to say, I did what you told me to do. I'm doing it. Like you said to do it on Fridays. I do it Thursday and Friday because I'm so excessive. Like, why are you still upset? And they're like, because you don't dust. What does that have to do with sweeping the floors?
Right.
So when you're not clear on your commitments,
right,
and you speak to the attachment, it will show up in your clients. You'll get the client, you'll be like, I'm attached to my clients having, just always getting the lowest price. And then you'll have clients that just aren't getting houses because they're always bidding the lowest prices. Right. And really what you want is you want them to have to be able to get their house at the lowest price possible. Not you always submit the lowest offer.
Right.
So,
I just want to throw some fuel on the fire because I feel like, so I love this distinction, like the distinction of commitment versus attachment is a really powerful distinction because we encounter it every day of our life, and every time there's a breakdown, that's at play. So I get that. Now, I think one of the challenges is that a lot of people don't know if you say like, what are you committed to? Mm-hmm. The response is, I don't know. Like it's like asking somebody, what's your why? And people go, I don't know what my why is. Asking them what their commitment is abstract. And so again,
this is the fun part.
Right. I know. Right. And this is why you guys are so good at what you do, because this is what you help backfill. But so people are building teams and they don't actually know what they're committed to. They don't know how to say or identify what they're committed to. So how do we get there?
So, one of the things that I actually find is one of the most appropriate analogies regarding listening is someone, I forget who it was, I want to say Jerry Garcia, don't quote me on that, said something about it's the music between the notes. Mm-hmm. That is the important part, not the notes themselves.
Right.
And the same things is actually true with listening. It's like, there's been times, and Andrew can attest to this, I've been on the phone with someone and we've been on the phone with someone and they'll say all the right things. Yeah. They said all the things they should.
Right.
In the right way they should, with the right attitude.
Yeah. Right.
And it was off. And I didn't necessarily know why it was off. I was just like, that was weird. Why'd you do that? Why were you weird about that thing? And they're like, what do you mean? That's exactly how I'm supposed to answer. I'm like, oh, got it. That's why it was weird.
Yeah. I think it goes to, and we might have already brought this up, is like when somebody does everything perfectly, they're doing something wrong. Because nobody's perfect. Mm-hmm. We're all human. We all have our own skew on the world. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So to answer perfectly out of like a book, just going back to that, to answer perfectly out of like, well, the book said this, so that was my answer. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So I can see that you haven't particularly thought this through.
Right.
Like
you haven't actually mastered the thought process behind it.
Right.
But you know how to follow step A, step B, step C, step 1, 2, 3, and get from point A to point B. But that's a theoretical point A to point B not actually using the mindset behind it.
And you could even grow your company that way. You could even follow the steps and experience your company's growth. And that's, that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, you're going to be working too hard or struggling with something, and you're just not able to figure out why when I did A plus B plus C, I'm not getting D.
I think that's okay for people. I think a lot of people are going, like, the thing about models is they try to help people paint by number. It's like,
right.
Here's the missing persons report with the disc profile that they should have if they're going to be your executive assistant. If you're going to have a listing coordinator, this is their disc profile. Right. And so we're like, what's happening is we're trying to set you up for as much success.
Right.
If you can't think for yourself, or you don't think for yourself.
Right.
If you do this, more people will be successful than less people.
Right.
But the problem is you're missing there will be a ceiling at some point that you will hit. And some people will hit it sooner than later. Right. Than others. But you won't know how to get what you're committed to.
Right.
Because you don't have the thought process. What you built by painting by number. You don't actually know how colors and things work. You just
absolutely
followed the instructions.
Yeah.
What I'm going to say about that is people with no guidance, no tools, no models, no examples of anything are probably, let's say, 2% of them can build whatever. Build a company, build a team, doesn't really matter. It's all interchangeable.
Yep. That's good. I get that. Yep.
Following a model or tools or whatever, maybe 25% of people can. The reality of the situation, though, is that everyone has the capability to.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have access to their particular method of it. It's like different flavors of ice cream. If you actually view everyone's innate gifts as different flavor of ice cream, there's sometimes vanilla, sometimes chocolate, sometimes Rocky Road. But let's say you're with someone and you're like, I really want vanilla ice cream, and they give you Rocky Road. You're going to be like, what the hell is this? Mm-hmm. But that's how most people approach building their businesses. They're like, I want a business that looks like vanilla ice cream, and here, I got a scoop of Rocky Road. Isn't this great?
Well, it's actually, here, I got a scoop of ice cream, and everybody else looks at it like it's Rocky Road, and you're like, I wanted a vanilla business. This is ice cream. Ice cream is ice cream. Therefore, I have a vanilla ice cream business. And it's like, I don't think so.
Yeah. Let me do this. I want to sort of plant a seed for a continuing of this conversation. I feel like we should stop here and then pick up in sort of a part 2. Let's pick this conversation up exactly where we left off. But I want to leave it with this thought so we can pick it up on the next episode. And that is, I feel like one of the challenges in the real estate industry is that it's interesting to deconstruct this. When you look at the proliferation of teams,
mm-hmm.
it is in direct correlation to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent when it came out, because that book taught a model for how to do it.
Right.
And so you found a lot of people jumping in and trying to paint by number. Yep. And so you found a lot of what you can see now are a lot of broken paintings. There are a lot of paintings that have been created, a lot of work that has been shipped. Let's just ship it. Let's try to build a team. We'll figure it out as we go. We'll follow this book. We'll see what happens. And the turnover, the retention rate in a team across this country is terrible because of the very thing that we're pointing to. Team leaders, team owners, business owners aren't retaining their people because they didn't think through the process. They don't have their ownership of their process because they built it on a model they had no ownership of.
Right.
And now I want to leave with that. So hold your thoughts, because we're going to pick this conversation up in the next episode. Guys, if people want to learn more about what you do and they can have these kinds of powerful conversations in their life and their business, how do they reach you?
Go for it.
myperfecthire.com.
So they can go to myperfecthire.com, and then that's going to take them to your website, and there they can hit the contact page, connect with you guys that way. You guys do some type of a free discovery call of some sort to hear where people are at?
Yeah, generally absolutely. What we'll do is we'll sit down with them for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, if they're actually interested in looking at what it would take to actually achieve the success and stress-free stress-free life that they really want.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's how long it takes for us to get to know them and to know exactly what's needed and to ensure 100% that we can actually help them fulfill on that.
Love it. Okay, good. Yeah. All right, gang, you heard it here first. myperfecthire.com. Head over there and connect with these guys and have a free conversation to listen. Even if it was just the conversation and you weren't even building a team, it would be worth your time because these guys are crazy smart. So thanks for your time, guys. We'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, see ya.
Thanks so much.